G-24 Secretariat, Ms. Ayabo Masha. Without further ado, may I invite Mr. Guerno to give some remarks. Mr. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we begin the Q&A session, I would like to extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you as we gather for this press conference. You have at your disposal our comprehensive communiqué and press release encapsulating the discussions held today. Allow me to briefly highlight the key takeaways. Following a succession of adverse shocks in recent years, global growth remains below pre-pandemic levels, and rising policy uncertainties are generating substantial medium-term headwinds. Emerging market and developing economies are experiencing the deteriorating terms of trade, reduced export volumes, and declining foreign currency earnings. While many EMDs have ramped up domestic policy to mitigate the impact of elevated uncertainty, the constrained policy space and current uncertainty underscore the urgent need for collective and coordinated solutions supported by multilateral institutions. The IMF's role as the centerpiece of the global financial safety net is vital in addressing these multilateral challenges and supporting vulnerable countries. Maintaining a robust and well-resourced IMF is necessary for crisis prevention, effective response, and sustaining international monetary and financial stability. Efforts to develop approaches for further quota realignment should reflect members' relative economic weights without disadvantaging other EMDs and LICs. The World Bank focus on jobs and private sector development is welcome. The bank has also made progress in implementing the Evolution Program. The ongoing shareholding review is an opportunity to resolve existing disparities and enhance representation and voice of EMD's countries. On the sovereign debt framework, we noted that high debt burdens and rising debt service costs continue to undermine long-term development prospects. While supporting efforts to further improve the implementation of the common framework, we call for broader reforms of the sovereign debt architecture to focus on fiscal sustainability and improving country risk assessments by credit rating agencies. We emphasize the need for institutional mechanisms for crisis prevention and response to support countries with sustainable debt positions that face short-term liquidity shocks. On development, we call for accelerated global action. We also support equitable energy transition, supportive financial instruments, and multilateral collaboration. On domestic resource mobilization and tax cooperation, we reiterated the effective domestic resource mobilization and multilateral cooperation on tax reforms are essential for mobilizing resources to finance development and address global challenges. Lastly, we encourage renewed international cooperation and urge closer collaboration among Bretton Woods institutions and national governments to restore confidence in the global systems. With these remarks, I'm now ready to entertain your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we begin the question and answer session, I kindly ask that all questions remain within the scope of the G-24's mandate, would of course be raised during the regional press conferences taking place in the coming days. Also, please identify yourself, your outlet, and specify to whom your question will address. So, any first questions? The lady in the pink jacket. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. My first question goes to the chair. And in countries where physical buffers have eroded, how can governments responsibly rebuild space without jeopardizing essential social services? And does the global debt architecture needs to be redesigned to reflect the more, fragmented reality? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think you touch upon into a very important topic of discussion. As Managing Director Georgieva always says, everything starts at the domestic level. The domestic imbalances that are created through imprudent fiscal policies are at the core of domestic imbalances. And I think one of the most important aspects that countries should take into account is specifically make their own domestic homework in their domestic finances, such that they are able to rebuild buffers to confront external shocks that every now and then happen. So in that respect, the cooperation and the collaboration that the multilateral development banks and institutions perform are very, very important in that respect, in creating the framework for analysis and execution of those policies, such that they are able to be successful in producing such buffers in the domestic. Because at the end of the day, the fundamental macroeconomic scenario of each country is what will bring growth and employment and investment into respective countries as well.
Next question, please. At the front, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and other members here. Mr. Chair, this question is for you. Good morning. In light of the communique's acknowledgement that emerging and developing economies are facing deteriorating terms of trade, rising debt burdens, and also the limited policy space, how can multilateral institutions like the World Bank and the IMF move, in terms of ensuring that reforms such as perhaps quota management, debt restructuring, and also resource mobilization truly reflect the voices and vulnerabilities of these economies, rather than perpetuating, the systemic inequalities that we've seen? Then also for Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, it would be nice to know perhaps our own opinion of at least in this meeting, October 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think as countries, we are part of a global framework under which the multilateral institutions play a key role in conjunction with the different countries and different governments in pursuing solid policies that at the same time address social inequalities. I mean, that is, at the end of the day, the most important aspect of what we do in the different governments in different countries. We need to constantly balance the need for growth and the need for addressing social inequalities that arise from the different fiscal imbalances and macroeconomic disorders that sometimes our countries have faced. With the resolution of entering into a clear path of having domestic fiscal balance and being able to put your domestic finances in order, what you have is you basically are subtracting or reducing the weight of government in the decisions that the private market makes. And as such, that is what leads to investment, and that is what leads to growth and to the improvement of the different people within our countries. All that in coordination with the assistance that the multilateral development banks give in terms of allowing for resource mobilization and infrastructure financing in education programs, such that our labor force becomes more skilled as well in the future. So the role is very, very important. It is interconnected, and it's part of the multilateralism that we all adhere to.
Mr. Cardoso, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Been very useful to answer the question. It's been very useful, and it's clear to me that under the leadership of the Argentina, being the chair of the G-24, we've certainly advanced the cause with the voice of the emerging economies and being able to get a greater, a more effective seat at the table, especially with respect to the Bretton Woods institutions and getting our voices heard. And I think that in itself is a major step forward. So, of course, our expectation is that the very, very good work that has been done will be further deepened in the years ahead.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Malik or Marsh, you have anything to add to? Yep.
No,
okay.
thank you.
Next question, please. Gentleman in front, and we're going to move to the lady in the front as well. Yeah.
Sir.
My name is Babajide Komalafe, Vanguard Newspaper, Nigeria. You said in the opening remarks, we call for broader reforms of the sovereign debt architecture to focus on fiscal sustainability and improving country risk assessments by credit rating agencies. So I want you, can you please elaborate what kind of reforms, maybe some specifics with respect to the current sovereign debt architecture? And then to the CBN governor, what kind of improvements, would you like to see in the way these rating agencies, assess countries like Nigeria and other emerging countries? Thank you.
Before you answer, I have an online question from Mr. Sofiq Farsan, New First Sri Lanka, which is related to your question. His question is, what measure is the G-24 proposing towards member states securing debt sustainability and positive growth trajectory? So it's related to debt restructuring. If Mr. Chair and then Ayaba would like to come in later. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Let me first address the first question. I think when you're talking about debt burdens that the world as a whole is having, and it impacts emerging market economies more significantly, because the first thing that happens in emerging markets is that access to credit is significantly reduced or eliminated. The answer to that, the answer to being able to regain debt sustainability goes hand in hand with credibility. Goes hand in hand with credibility on your policies, because at the end of the day, rising debt levels are just a result of rising fiscal disequilibriums. So the first thing to attack is your fiscal situation, because from there on you will be able to have the resources to have a better position to refinance or restructure the debt of the different countries that face those burdens. In Argentina, we have tried to regain that credibility and regain market access, always within the framework, the legal framework that is available to us. And as such, we are making big strides in building that credibility, and by our actions in terms of having our fiscal discipline, our monetary discipline, having growth and investment in the country is going to alleviate as well the debt burdens that our country and some other countries face as well.
Ms. Marsha?
Yes, and if I can add a little to that, I think when we talk about reform of the sovereign debt architecture, we're really looking at the type of sovereign debt resolution that we have now, the common framework. The common framework is really at best some kind of restructuring with a little bit of haircut. So what we call for when we talk about a comprehensive sovereign debt restructuring framework is a framework that includes not only bilateral creditors, a few bilateral creditors, but that also includes the private sector. The private sector is currently not included. So if a country has a private sector debt, It's not included as part of the common framework. And that also goes with the debt to international financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. So, but when we look at the kind of debt resolution that we had at the turn of the century, the HIPIC, the MDRI, those had, they went much more further than what we currently have. So that's the point we make when we say that we want reform of the sovereign debt architecture. The other issue is also about how does the debt architecture cover countries that are just illiquid, but they're still solvent. They can pay their debt, but at a particular time, maybe there's an exogenous shock, and so they cannot meet their obligations now. So the point is, what kind of facilities can we have that is market-based, that those kind of countries can quickly rely upon? And we've seen examples of how those kinds of facilities work, even in the past 1 or 2 weeks with Argentina. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Marcia, I promise to come to you, the lady in the beige in the front, and then I see some hands. I'm going to that side of the room later. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nume Ekege from This Day newspaper. My question is to the Vice Chair, Mr. Cardoso. How, in these meetings, what are the core messages in terms of how the G-24 is trying to protect the interests of developing countries and emerging economies? Thank you.
Any other question from Mr. Cardoso? Julian? Yep.
Thank you. Julian Piquet, the Africa Report, Jeune Afrique. A follow-up question to that for Governor Cardoso. Was wondering if you could talk a little bit about trade and tariffs, the impact on your countries. One, the impact of the U.S. tariffs, of course, how they're impacting your countries, but also the Chinese now being shut out of the U.S. market and sending a lot of their goods to your countries, particularly Africa. Is that undermining industrialization efforts? Just wondering if you have a common position on what needs to be done on the dual attacks on the trade front. Thank you.
If you'd like to respond to your takeaway.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I think it's important to say that the G-24 is a body, as far as I can see, with various countries who have common interests. And to the extent that is the case, they've been relatively successful in having a dialogue. Like, for example, this morning we had a dialogue with both the managing director of the IMF as well as the representative of the managing director of the World Bank, where, there was an exchange of ideas and an exchange of discourse that basically helps for the leadership of the Bretton Woods institutions to better understand directly from the players what the issues are and where the pain points really are. So from that perspective, I think it's really a very effective engagement. And this, as you all know, is something that goes on a regular basis. And of course, the communique that comes out also is very, very, very useful in the sense that it moves from issues of domestic resource mobilization to inflation and all the various commonalities that the G-24 members have. So from that perspective, I think it's been pretty effective, and they learn from us and we also learn from them. And there were certain things that came out today that I found quite useful. They were talking about the fact that growth is behind, but not as behind as would have been expected to be, and also the fact that one of the issues that can help to get many of our countries out of a difficult situation, of course, macroeconomic policies and sound macroeconomic policies at that, and the correlation between those who've adopted sound macroeconomic policies and growth and disinflation, and obviously having to stay the course. So those are very, very critical issues that came out. With respect to trade and tariffs, really from Nigeria's perspective, frankly, less of a problem for us. And I think we were very fortunate because a lot of the things that were needed to have been done, we did them much earlier. And as a result of that, we were able to create resilience and buffers against potential shocks. So, and of course, in terms of anchoring expectations, we found that those who followed the Nigerian economy were fairly comfortable. And for us, again, oil is basically the only commodity that was so exposed, and the impact on that was relatively modest. Now we have a more competitive currency, because to the question you asked on China, we have a more competitive currency, with the result that for once we have a situation where we have a positive balance of trade. We have a trade surplus, and we expect it to be 6% to GDP or thereabouts and remain in that for some time. So basically what is happening is a complete restructuring of the economy, where with a competitive currency, it's encouraging people to go into domestic production and, of course, discouraging imports.
Thank you, Governor. I'm going to move to that side. I think I see the hand from the lady in the black jacket. Yes, please. That's you. The microphone is next to you.
Hello, it is Phil Scofgard from Invest Gains Capital. We are doing digital bonds, which I would like to bring because we are also working with FT and SG Global. We are sharing our progress of a pilot in South Africa. So I would like to hear your opinion about what you feel about involving private capital, because digital bonds attracts new investor classes.
Maybe this is a good question for Ms. Marsha, or this is not inside of your purview?
It's outside.
Okay, I think you should raise the question in other press conference on digital bonds. Sir, with the pink tie, yeah.
Thanks. Igor Nemushin for the Rio News Agency in DC Bureau. Frankly speaking, question to all the participants. What are your attitudes towards settling bilateral trade to national currencies? What advantages and disadvantages do you see? And what is your country's stance on this issue? Thank you.
Can you repeat your question again? This is to...
The question about switching to national currencies in bilateral trade. What is your country's attitude towards this issue, and what advantages and disadvantages do you see? Thank you.
That's a very complex question, but we have 5 minutes left. So just want to remind that every panelist that we have only 5 minutes, so maybe a quick response if you'd like to jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, from Pakistan perspective, we've been working quite hard to diversify and settle some trade in local currencies. We've signed a currency swap agreement with People's Republic of China, with Central Bank of China. And one of the objectives is to assist in transition to local currencies. So we are very keen on that, and gradually we are working on that to diversify. Objective is just to diversify, and it's really up to the choice of the traders, importers and exporters, which currencies they want to denominate. But we, as a central bank, want to have provide an enabling environment to the businesses, so that they can make a choice, a commercial choice, if they want to determine or denominate their trade in local currency. So we are supportive in that, and we are working hand in hand with the industry on that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Cardoso, would you like to respond, or?
Well, I thought the question was on digital settling with digital currency, right?
National.
In national currency.
National.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Local currency.
Yeah, local currency. I'm sorry. Okay. We've had an experiment with that, and to be frank, it didn't work out very well for us. That's not to say that we are not interested in doing this. We are. And we are really at an elementary stage of putting up a framework now that our currency is more competitive to be able to ensure that it's a win-win for everybody.
In terms of local currencies and being used local currencies in trade, Argentina has historically had a very weak currency, and as such, we have been trading in what global currencies are, mostly U.S. dollars, euros, and yen and renminbi as well. So we are in no position to force anyone to accept our local currency yet. It'll come the time.
So we have another online question I received from Abdurrahman Ahmed, our Arabic TV. This is to Ms. Masha. How could G24 help Syria in building its economy, which is a member of G24?
Yes, thank you for that. Well, the challenges that Syria face are multifaceted, and some of them can be solved by more financing, but a lot has to do with institution building, reconstruction, the devastation of war, and also how the government proceeds in terms of how it's working with its neighbors. Now, based on the last IMF assessment, I think the focus obviously has to be on the macroeconomic stability. I think that's the first port of call. And for a country that the GDP has declined by about 50% over the past 10 years, it's a long way to go. And I am of the view that the international financial institutions, the IMF and the World Bank, are already in the process of putting together some kind of support. The World Bank has support for fragile and post-conflict states. That could be something the Syrians will find attractive, and the IMF also has that. But given where the country is now, a lot of those advances have to be concessional, very, very concessional, because it's just not in a condition where it can really support or be able to service loans that are high cost. So I will say that, yes, from our own perspective, we see the kind of facilities they qualify for, but also the government has to have that comprehensive plan on how it wants to proceed. And as G24, we're always working together with tax authorities in member countries, with the central banks, with the fiscal agents. We're always developing positions that are shared, and also having a lot of seminars where policymakers can really get to do these things better.
Thank you. Any other thoughts from other panelists? We see the clock is ticking down, so I'm going to close the session. We are at time. The G24 communique should have been posted on imf.org. The transcript of this conference will be made available later. And thank you very much for joining this press conference in this room and also from online. So have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this was really a historic day, to put it mildly. Wasn't it amazing? Even that last meeting, when you see the heads of those countries, those are serious countries. But I thought it was fantastic. And seeing the so-called hostages with those kids come back home, the way their parents just went crazy. Your father would not be that way with you. He'd be okay, but he wouldn't be like that.
I would get a hug.
A hug. A minor hug, okay. Come on. Let's go. No, he wouldn't. I'm only kidding. So, how you doing? Everybody okay? Very good?
How are you feeling?
I feel good. I mean, it's a long day, right? It's a long day, and we did a couple of big ones. That first one it's getting great reviews. I will tell you. There's a lot of meat in there. They're dissecting it and just playing it all night long. It's been very good. I think it's a very important day. Because nobody thought this was possible. Very good. And the press has been very respectful for a change. Doesn't happen often. Go ahead, Peter. Let's go.
What does it tell you about the world that it seems like you got a much better reception in Israel than you would get in like New York City right now?
I think I get a great reception in New York City.
I'm not saying that you don't, but it was on another level today.
Yeah, you're right. It was incredible. But I went to the Bronx, and we had 31,000 people in a park in the Bronx in New York City during the campaign. 31,000, you remember that? And it was the friendliest crowd you've ever seen. And very diverse, but it was really something. New York is good. It's good.
New York City, bad example, but it was, I don't know if you can see.
Are you admitting you made a mistake? I don't believe it. This is breaking news. No,
First rule of politics, never admit a mistake.
Never admit.
But it was, in the motorcade, I don't know if you can see, there were people hanging out of every apartment balcony, inside the Knesset.
Okay, so I've heard, like, they said if you did Russia, or if you did, lots of different combinations, they say the Middle East blows it away. And I said, well, by experts. It's just thousands of years, nothing's been done. It's a whole thing with the Arabs, Jewish people, this and everybody. It's just never been done before. And there's a certain mystery to the Middle East. I mean, look, it's only because of ratings. You're only as good as the ratings, right? If they weren't getting ratings, your people at Fox would. And by the way, Trey is excellent.
He does a really good job.
Really good. We did a very quick interview. I was running to the second one where we were pretty late.
Something that we heard from some Israelis on the ground, they want to know how the peace holds when you are not the president. So 3 years from now...
I can't answer it. I know this, and you are all witness. We go, and I get 25,000, 35,000. If you look at a normal president, we'll get 300 people, and that's not bad. They'll go to a ballroom, they'll get 300 people. We get 35. We had 117,000 people in New Jersey, and so I can't tell you what's going to happen, but I'll be out there fighting for whoever it may be.
Did you tell Bibi beforehand that you were going to go off script and?
No, I actually told him I didn't want to bring up the part, but it was just a perfect spot. It was good timing when you said, because he was getting a very good hand, and when they stopped, they said, "Why didn't you give this guy a part?" If he didn't get a good hand, they would have done that. But the timing was. What do you think, Katie? Good timing for that, right?
I think people thought it was pretty funny. Yes.
Yeah, it was good. It worked out well. It's a little risque. Bring it up. Yeah, a pretty sore subject in Israel, but the people were fantastic.
Mr. President, you spoke to
here we go.
Egypt.
She can ask more questions this one. Go ahead.
I have some good questions, I promise.
You do. You were very nice today. Go ahead.
You talked to President El-Sisi, and you spoke about in that room how Egypt has so little crime, and you said it's all about leadership. You talked about...
Well, they're very strong on crime.
You talked about some of the governors.
You wouldn't believe how strong, but they are very strong, but they don't have the kind of crime. They don't have the violent, they may have other kinds of crime, but they're violent crime. You can actually walk down a park and not get mugged or hit over the head with a baseball.
Do you want to see some U.S. governors be more like Egypt?
No, I want them to be stronger and tougher and not allow us to have record-breaking crime in Chicago and different places. I want them to admit they have crime So there were 4,000 shootings in Chicago, murders over a fairly short period of time, meaning like a year and a half, I think. 4,000 murders. Many, many thousands of you're hit by a bullet but don't die. I want him to say we have a problem. Could Trump bring in the troops and solve the problem like I did in D.C., like I'm doing in Memphis? Have you seen the crimes way down in Memphis, and we've only been there 7 days? Way down.
The courts have been standing in your way here.
They have
held
been.
up.
Well,
Are
the
you
lower
thinking about
courts have.
using the Insurrection Act?
The lower, well, I could use it. If I wanted to, I could use it. Look, that's a very simple answer. I'm allowed to use the Insurrection Act. In fact, that was on Stephanopoulos today, his Sloppodopoulos show. They asked Sloppy Chris Christie about the Insurrection Act. He said, well, if you're talking about the Insurrection Act, he's got the absolute right to use that. And he said a couple of things that were good. He said 50% of the presidents that served in office have used the Insurrection Act. And the Insurrection Act, according to all of them, said it can't even be challenged. I don't have to go there yet because I'm winning on appeal. You know, you're right. We're losing with radical left judges, generally, radical left judges, and we're winning on appeal. So we'll see what happens.
I'll be speaking to Governor J.B. Pritzker tomorrow. Do you have any messages or questions for him?
Well, I think he should beg for help because he's running a bad operation. He's letting people be killed in his city because he doesn't want in Chicago. And I love Chicago. Chicago can be a great city again, and very quickly. I would have Chicago cleaned out, the criminals removed, we would remove them. You know, in D.C. we took out 1,700 career criminals, hard-line criminals. That's why it's so good right now. D.C. setting records the other way. It's never been so safe. And the restaurants have never done better business. They're opening up new restaurants. They were closing restaurants, now they're opening new restaurants. I can do the same thing on a larger scale in Chicago. And Pritzker should ask me to do it. But when you mentioned insurrection, I mean, you were the one that mentioned, one of you mentioned Insurrection Act. I mean, I could do that. And many presidents have.
Do you have an update on
50%, Katie, 50% of the presidents have used the insurrection because they don't want to go through this stuff where somebody said there's no crime and 4,000 people got shot. You know, right?
Maybe you'll have to use it.
You don't have to convince because she tends to be on the conservative side.
Do you have an update on the Schumer shutdown and Democrats still continuing to
well, it is
refuse
a Schumer
to vote for the
shutdown. I mean, it's, look, they want to have health care for illegals that have come in. Many of these people are criminals, and they want to have health care. And what it also does is, you know, we have nobody coming in now. We have it really locked down. If they start winning cases like this, we're going to have a rush on our border because they're going to come up for health care and the other things that they give away. Look at Newsom. Education, health care, he gives everything away. People come up for that. People come from other countries for that. So we can't have it. We can't have it. We have people coming into our country, but they're coming in legally.
Do you have any more meetings?
We have
with
the
leadership
strongest border we've ever had. But they are coming in, Katie. They're coming in legally through a process.
Do you have any planned meetings with House and Senate leadership on the Republican side to figure out
I'm
this
meeting
week?
with them. I talk to them all the time. John Thune's been great, and Mike has been great. Speaker, he's been great. Those two guys have done a great job. But we're dealing with a bunch of radical left lunatics that have lost an election in a landslide. They don't even admit that. I mean, think of it. They lost the election 2,700 in terms of counties to 525. That's where the map is entirely, right? They lost all 7 swing states. They lost the popular vote. And then they say, oh, the election was close. She says the election was a landslide. But they lie. You know, they can take any subject like this sometimes. He says, oh, no, Los Angeles is doing great. If we didn't go into Los Angeles, they would have had to cancel the Olympics. And the head of law enforcement said, and he said it very strongly, we could not have handled this if Trump didn't bring those people in. 2 weeks later, he said, oh, we could have, because he was told to say that. But we did a great job in Los Angeles. You wouldn't have, first of all, you lost half of it with the fires. And this would have been, I think this would have been maybe even worse. They had no control. When we went in, the police had totally lost control. And he admitted it. The head, whoever he is, whatever his name is, he admitted it very strongly.
What's your reaction to President Bill Clinton giving you credit for ending the war?
Well, look, I've always liked Bill Clinton. I've always got along with him. He used to be a friend of mine. Came to my wedding, you know. So did she. A lot of people don't know that. But now he's, I've always liked him. I thought it was very nice, actually. And what is he doing? He's telling the truth. Because nobody else has been able to do it. Talking about the Middle East, yes.
Mr. President, I wanted to ask you about your conversations with world leaders today. You said that everybody is unified over your plan, but we heard from President Sisi calling for a two-state solution and independent Palestinian state.
You're talking about a different plan. I'm talking about something very much different. We're talking about rebuilding Gaza. I'm not talking about single state or double state or two-state. We're talking about the rebuilding of Gaza.
What's the road ahead for governing
Gaza? Well, we're going to have to see. I mean, a lot of people like the one-state solution. Some people like the two-state solution. So we'll have to see. I haven't commented on that.
How do you see bridging that gap? Because you have the Arab countries.
At some point, I'll decide what I think is right, but I'd be in coordination with other states and other countries.
And are you satisfied? I mean, some people might say it feels premature declaring peace for the whole Middle East. 3,000 years of peace.
Premature? Why? You want more people to be killed? What do you want? Another 300,000-400,000 people to be killed? Is that what you're looking for?
But in terms of the risks in Gaza, I'm already seeing
risk. So you mean let them fight on for another couple of years and let some more buildings fall down on top of people and keep it going? No, we did it the right way. We did it. I think our timing was perfect, actually.
And in terms of
you don't really mean that. You mean you want them to fight on, right?
I'm just asking about the phase 2 of the negotiations and how confident you are that those can get underway.
You know, we have a lot of power. That was a power room. Those people, those are the richest countries. I think now with tariffs, I think we're the richest country in the world, actually. The United States, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. But those are, really seriously rich countries, and they can handle it.
Some of those players, and particularly Erdogan, they also help in the war between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah, Erdogan can. He's respected by Russia. Ukraine, I can't tell you about, but he is respected by Putin. And he's a friend of mine, you can see. Why? I get along with the tough ones. I don't get along with the weak ones. I get along with the tough ones. I don't know what that is, but Erdogan's been great with me. When NATO has a problem with Erdogan, which they often do, they call me to talk to him. And I've never failed in working it out like immediately. Is that right? How's Caroline doing? Is she doing good? Should Caroline be replaced?
No. That's up to you, sir.
It'll never happen.
Nobody wants to. I say she does a great job. Thank you. Do you want to elaborate on the countries?
And those lips, they move like a machine gun, right?
Do you want to elaborate on the countries you consider weak?
They really are? Okay, what?
Do you want to comment on the leaders you consider weak who are in that room?
No, I won't comment on that, but you know probably who they are.
Just before we...
I don't know. Really, there were a couple in the room. But
overall,
I thought that was an amazing group of people. I don't think they've ever seen an assemblage like that between power, money, et cetera, et cetera. There's never been anything like that. So we're up, but you know what? I have to, because the plane is going to take off.
Are you hosting Zelensky at the White House on Friday?
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, President Trump.
Have a good time. Thank you, everybody. Set a record. We have both the President of Finland and we have the Prime Minister of Finland, and that's never, I don't ever remember having a President and a Prime Minister, but that's a great honor, and thank you very much both for being here. And Alex, we've been friends for a long time, and I've heard wonderful things about your Prime Minister also, and we have a big order coming up. We're buying icebreakers. We're building them together for the most part. We're doing 4 over there and 7 over here. And we negotiated a pretty tough price, I think. But I assume you're going to do very well. But what you're doing is you're going to be teaching us about the icebreaker business very, very strong. We only have one icebreaker in all of that millions and millions of acres. We only have one icebreaker. And other countries have more than we do. And we're buying the finest icebreakers in the world. And Finland's known for making them. They sort of have almost a monopoly on icebreakers, if you think about it. Nobody makes them like Finland. I've heard that for a long time. So we're going to have a total of 11, and it's been really an honor working on it. It was very important. We were making them, but we didn't make them right. By the time we finish, we're going to make them maybe better than you, but at least as well. But probably not better, but at least as well. So I appreciate both of you being here. It's an honor to have both of you. Really tremendous reputations, and it's a great country. Thank you very much. Alex,
thank you, Mr. President. I mean, I remember our first conversation just after you had been elected in November. The first thing you mentioned was icebreakers. We need them, and then we've been working on this issue ever since. And we're happy to announce that we're basically building 11 icebreakers together, 4 of them in Finland, in joint endeavors, and then 7 of them here. And I think the reason that we've landed in Finland is that 60% of the world's icebreakers are built in Finland. 80% are designed. We've been building them for over 100 years. And speaking of price and time, I think we're the country that can provide them half the price and half the time that others have it. And I think this is a huge strategic decision by the President as well, because we all know that the Arctic is important strategically, militarily, and in terms of the economy as well. And now we can work on this together. Finland is a strange country in the sense that we are probably the only country in the world where all the ports are frozen in the winter. And that's why we built the know-how in icebreakers. Now we can work on this together. And I remember the first conversation we had, you mentioned the fact that Russia has 40, and you need to start ramping this up. And this is an indication that we're going to do it, and we're going to do it together. I also think that this strengthens our bilateral relations. I know I come from a small country, but for us to be able to work together with you is extremely important from a strategic perspective as well. So we appreciate the cooperation, and we're going to deliver the first one 2028.
Good. Just a little bit before a big event.
Yeah.
So, that's great. And actually, it's true. I came here and they were building an icebreaker, and they had no idea what they were doing. They had no idea how much it was going to cost. They knew nothing. And we have our Secretary of the Navy right over here, and we're working on a lot more than icebreakers. We're working on some very, very big and important ships. But they had no idea what they were doing, and I was with you, and I ended up meeting you and knowing you, and I heard about Finland and their icebreakers, and I said, do me a favor, would you have your people take a look at what these people are doing? And it came out that, just as I thought, they had no idea what they were doing. And we got involved, and we ended up, we need these ships very badly, because we have a lot of territory, more than anybody. And so I'm very honored to have this deal, and thank you very much. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great partnership. And it's a great honor to have you, Mr. Prime Minister. Would you like to say something, please?
First, Mr. President, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here today. And as a Prime Minister of Finland, I want to say that this deal it's very important to Finland and our economy, because our economy is suffering a lot because of Russian aggression in Ukraine. And this deal, it means investments, it means jobs, and jobs means hope. And that's why this is so important. And I want to thank your leadership on this deal and this issue. Thank you.
So you've been affected very badly by the war going on, the ridiculous war going on, right?
Yes, because we have to close the border with Russia. We have 1,300 kilometers common border with them, and it affects the atmosphere in Finland, in investments, and that's why we need good news. Our people need hope.
Right. So your border is closed.
Yes, closed.
And that's because you have so many Russians trying to get in?
Yes, they started to push illegal migrants to our border. That's why we were forced to close it.
And people also that don't want to go into the military, I guess, trying to come through. Right?
Yeah, some of them are escaping. Fortunately, on our side, we don't have that problem. In Finland,
no, you have a great military.
We have compulsory military service, and as I always say, we have 900,000 men and women who've done it, including myself and the Prime Minister. We have 200.
And you've been fighting Russia for a long time. So how many years have you been indirectly fighting Russia?
Well, put it this way, we have managed our relationship since the 1300s with about 30 skirmishes, but it's been very peaceful at our border after World War II. Yeah, but it's been peaceful at our border since the Winter War and the War of Continuation. But, I mean, a lot of it is because we actually have a very large military. It's the biggest in Europe together with Turkey, Ukraine and Poland. We have over 60 F-18s. We just bought 64 F-35s. We'll roll out the first one in Texas in December. We have the biggest artillery in Europe together with Poland. And as I always say, we don't have it because we're worried about Stockholm.
Well, you really have proportionately, I think, the largest military in the world, proportionately.
It's quite big, yes, I have to admit. But, you know, we have it for defense purposes and also to build a deterrence. And it's worked, and I think that's one of the reasons that our relationship is so good as well. We have the Defense Cooperation Agreement with you. Right. We're new allies in NATO. Our defense expenditure is going north of 3%. We work very closely with you and the rest of our allies. And, you know, when you push the ceiling of defense expenditure in NATO to 5%, you can imagine that a country like Finland was quite pleased with that, because that means that all of the allies have to bring up their defense expenditure. And you basically increased our security just with that decision in The Hague. And I have to admit that having been to my first NATO summit in the summer of 2024, if someone would have told me that you will move from 2% to 5% after Trump enters, I would have said, good.